Hello, this is Archie Dunlop with Talking Astrology with Archie on Monday, March the 13th, 2023. So, I've got a question for you. Have you ever thought about starting your own religion? No? I mean, I've thought about it a lot. I've really asked myself, is it possible for me to start a religion? Now, if you want to start a religion, you need, I think, to have a lot of self-confidence. It's also important not to think too much. And perhaps that's my problem. I've had ideas for starting a religion, and I've analysed them, I've questioned them, and as a result, I've sort of given up on the idea. Also, it's quite scary to start a religion. You are potentially setting yourself up against God, and that's bad. You can see it in America. America is a country full of churches, supposedly a very Christian country, and yet there's no God in this place. Absolutely not. No God. I think that is because Americans tend to create God in their own image. All of those little churches you see, all of them in their own way are setting up their own religion. Their religion is focused on their values, not on God's values, their values. And that is asking for trouble. Hubbard and nemesis. I don't think God appreciates that. But that's America. Yeah, America is a country with no soul. And I say that as someone who's from the UK. I mean, the UK is an atheist country. But there's more spirituality in Britain than there is in America. Yeah, America is a spiritual desert. So anyway, I'm going to talk about someone who started a religion, who was born, I think, 112 years ago today. And that man was L. Ron Hubbard, who started Scientology, and I'll be looking at his chart. Anyway, to start with, I want to look at today's stars on Monday, March the 13th, 2023. So let's see what's going on. Okay, there we have it. There's the chart. We can see that the moon is in Sagittarius. And in a way, that's a big relief. We've had the moon in Scorpio for a long time, a couple of days, and with Nevia Combuster, and it's been quite intense. And now it's in Sagittarius. I think the moon works pretty well in Sagittarius. It's a very honest placement. People who have a moon in Sagittarius are often completely open about their feelings, what they think. And in the process, they're completely tactless. They'll tell you what you're doing wrong. They'll tell you you're hopeless, but they won't mean any harm. It'll just come out. So it's a great place, moon in Sagittarius. It's very, very honest. And I think, as the day progresses, we can see that the moon in Sagittarius is making a square to Saturn in Pisces. So at the beginning of the day, particularly if you're in America, more in the morning, early morning, you might feel there's a certain sense of restriction. But as the day progresses, that will start to fade away, and you'll feel, and I think most of us will feel more confident. However, when you look at a chart like this, the surface appearances can be deceptive. Now, I'm going to show you something that maybe you won't be too familiar with, and it's to do with midpoints. Here, look at the sun. This is the sun in Pisces. Now, you might see that the sun is approximately on the Uranus-Pluto midpoint. And the sun is also on the Jupiter-Saturn midpoint. Now, probably when you look at the chart, you can't actually see that very well. So we need to kind of use a bit of an X-ray to really show that. And to do that, we need to look at something called the fourth harmonic. I mean, don't panic. Don't worry about the details. Oh, by the way, that's a picture of L. Ron Hubbard. I'll be talking about him in a minute. He looks great. You know, really, he looks a real charmer, doesn't he? Just a person you could trust to save your soul. A real charmer, yeah. Anyway, as I was saying, we do need to look at that chart in a kind of an X-ray format. So let me show you. Let's see if this works. There. Now, this is called a 90-degree dial. Don't worry about the details. And I'm going to just click. There's the sun. And we can see that the sun is on the Jupiter-Saturn midpoint. There's Jupiter, there's Saturn, there's Uranus, and there's Pluto. You see the symmetry in the chart. And this is, you know, this is interesting and I think powerful. Now, Jupiter-Saturn as a pair, they're the social planets. They talk about the great cycles that the world is going through. Uranus and Pluto are about revolution, things exploding, not exploding, I mean, not like guns, bombs, that kind of thing. Just people have had enough. Uranus and Pluto. Uranus is about dramatic change. And so the sun, it configures both those pairs, and you can't see that in the ordinary chart. You can only see that in the fourth harmonic in the 90-degree dial, and so that may create some drama. This is a time when you need to look at the newspapers. I don't know what's happening in Georgia. Georgia's quite interesting because America seems to be hell-bent on overthrowing the government. There may be other places, Georgia. America does that kind of stuff. Always regime change, interfering. Americans don't care about Georgians. They're just people in Georgia. They're just there to be people to be arrested, killed, whatever. It doesn't matter. It's America that matters. Remember that. Anyway, sorry, I'm diverting. I'm digressing there. But so it may be quite a tense and explosive day. And just look at the newspaper. Look at some news websites. See if you can get that symbolism in terms of what is going on, because the sun does trigger the Jupiter-Saturn and Uranus-Pluto midpoints. So I'll go back to that chart for today. There's one other thing I want to say is that Mars at 24 Gemini is moving to a square with Neptune at 25 Pisces. Now, I always associate Mars and Neptune with sleaze, an attraction to the underside of society, whether that's drugs, prostitution, crime, criminals, dark subterranean places where shady deals are going on. All that kind of stuff may feel very attractive, but you do have to be careful. So if you have a temptation to buy drugs or hang out with prostitutes or whatever, I would suggest you think again, because things could go wrong. Anyway, that's my warning, and that's how I want to wrap up my view of today. So let's now look at the horoscope of L. Ron Hubbard. Don't worry, I'm not going to spend too long talking about him. Here is a man who started a religion, Scientology. And he began as a science fiction writer. So he was writing science fiction, and then he morphed into a religious leader. So I'm wondering if we can actually see this in his chart. Now, he has in his chart a grand trine. Now, a grand trine, here's what we mean by that, is we see a triangular pattern. Jupiter in Scorpio, at 14 Scorpio, Neptune at 19 Cancer, and the Sun at Mercury at 14 Pisces, and kind of the Sun at 21 Pisces is also kind of getting into the pattern. So you see this triangular configuration, and it's about ease, things working very easily. And Mercury is the planet of writing. So with Mercury trine Jupiter, he's able to really write, really get into it. By the way, Prince Harry has Mercury trine Jupiter, but I won't go into that. I suppose Prince Harry with his, what's it called, spare, I mean, he's, in some respects, he's been successful, has he? But he needed to sell a lot of copies on that. But anyway, with L. Ron Hubbard, he was a prolific writer. He was able to churn out science fiction, and he then came up with a religion, Scientology, which, as I understand it, is about, how does it work? It's like all of us have a part of ourselves which was a part of some extraterrestrial civilization, and we got trapped in our bodies, and something like that. And Scientology was extremely successful. He was able to sell it. And what L. Ron Hubbard did with that Pisces was he was able to act as a sponge. Now that's a word you need to think of when you deal with Pisces, and is sponge. It's people who can pick up knowledge without really thinking about it, without really analysing it. I mean, I don't know, Einstein in a sense was probably a bit of a sponge. His school reports weren't great, his school grades weren't great. He just knew it. It all came his way. He just understood the math and the physics and all of that. So with L. Ron Hubbard, he was a sponge for all of the knowledge that was going on around him in the mid-20th century. I think this knowledge, for example, he got some ideas from occultist Aleister Crowley. He got some ideas from Freud. He got some ideas apparently from his time in the Navy. He was really into boats, and so you would expect that from someone who's a Pisces. So he was a sponge. So he didn't actually come up with these ideas himself. He got all these ideas from other people, and he synthesized them into Scientology. And it's interesting that although he was a writer, if you look at the air signs, Libra, Gemini, and Aquarius, he's got no planets in Aquarius, no planets in Libra, only Pluto in Gemini, and that's an outer generational planet. So he didn't have any air in his chart. And I think this goes back to what I was saying about the problems of starting a religion and how I could never start a religion, because being a Gemini, I just think too much. I analyze things, and I'm too thoughtful, and I suppose if you're too thoughtful, you might lose some of your ability to be convincing. Maybe you're already picking it up as you watch this YouTube video. I'm bit too analytical. I'd probably do a better job if I had no air in my chart. So Hubbard didn't analyze it too much. He just was a sponge. He brought all these ideas together. He turned them into a religion and didn't apologize, and he was successful. Though, he was successful up to a point. Apparently not very many people are Scientologists now. Perhaps if he had martyred himself, like, what's the man's name? John Smith. Now, John Smith was a Capricorn. He was the one who started the Mormons. The Mormons haven't taken over America, but, they have been successful. I think far more successful than Scientology. So, anyway, that's L. Ron Hubbard, and that is pretty much all I've got to say for today. So enjoy your Monday, and I will see you tomorrow.